thank you for coming out. This is the director of White Girl, Elizabeth Wood. A nice round of applause. For Pete's sake.
Thank you for coming.
You know, can you introduce?
Sure. This is Morgan Saylor, Leah. Brian Mark, AKC, Blue. Ralph Rodriguez, Megan. And the producer, Gabriel Lexman.
Is there anybody else around here?
The other producer, Matt Achterbird.
Is there anybody else in the room that might be here? That
Steph Mitchell, the front. Hey, there you are. Just got your email. Hello.
My name's Adam Schartoff. I do a podcast, which I'm sure most people in the room do a podcast, but it's called Filmwax Radio. Thank you, and it's about independent film, and I do interviews with everybody from anyone who I want to hopefully talk with. Elizabeth was on, and we posted that show this week, I think it was, or last week, and it was great. And John Turturro's on the same episode. So
I was much more interesting, I think.
You were, will be. And I just want to say, I have a kid, and he has a little sister. I was going to come over, and I had to bring the kids, and she was like, I don't know if if this is right. Maybe we should postpone it because, we're going to talk about things might come up, and I don't want them to Anyway,
I have a very foul mouth, and you're bringing 2 children under 10?
I know,
it was
yeah.
Fine. Educational.
So anyway, I just want to mention one thing. Elizabeth, before we get to talking to your beautiful, wonderful, talented cast, that you just talk about a little bit about your background to show the contrast. You were raised in Oklahoma, correct? But your parents were religious, I want to say Methodist, but I'm going to be wrong.
Church of Christ.
Church of Christ. Oh, so
Democrats, though. Let's give them some credit.
Oh no, I'm not judging. I'm just saying there's a little contrast. Is all.
There's degrees of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway, so my question would have been like, how do you go from that upbringing to bringing up this? That was my.
That's a philosophical question, huh? It's probably all a reaction to conservative Christian background, obviously, right?
I'll push back a little
My
bit.
2-year-old today asked me what shame was, and my husband said, well, ask your mother, she knows all about it. That being said, maybe we should talk about the film, because it's much more interesting.
Okay, we could do that. But I was just giving the audience an opportunity to think of questions, and maybe I'm being foolish, because I just, if it's about the line of coke off the man's dick.
Don't tell me you've never done that.
Guilty as charged. Okay, anybody? I do want you actually it's not a long Q&A. We have I've been told about 20 minutes or so. So please do raise your hand if you have something you want to ask or say to anybody here. But
I'm gonna get queso.
Morgan, describe. We're gonna get to. Who raised their hand? Morgan Saylor. One more brief round of applause for Morgan's performance, because it was completely unbelievable, really. Morgan, what was your reaction when you got this script?
I was scared. It came along like a regular audition, but as soon as I read the script, I was very intrigued. It did feel unusual. It felt like it portrayed young people in a light that I don't often read in scripts. Most things I read are like happy-go-lucky high school comedies, and like the role that I'm supposed to go after is a nice girlfriend or a nice daughter. And this was really interesting because it felt like a young, real female. And I moved to New York when I was 18, which was about 3 years ago, and it was exciting to see something that was talking about youth and also big issues that my peers and I were discussing in terms of gender and race and gentrification. It was cool. I knew I would want to see the movie, whether I was in it or not.
Your parents, I keep cycling back, I apologize. But you didn't even tell them, right, about
She
You
keeps saying her
didn't
parents aren't going to see it. I'm like, yeah, right.
You didn't
Should.
prepare.
I don't think they should. Can we take a vote? I don't think they should, right?
You didn't prepare them.
Yeah, they. I don't think we'll see it. They're in Atlanta.
Okay. There are no movie theaters in Atlanta, as we know.
No, that's correct.
They probably don't have Netflix.
And it's going to be on Netflix, by the way. It's a done deal.
My brother saw it for the first time about a week ago, and that was exciting. He was actually proud. He'd, of course, been told about all the gnarliness for many years now. He shot almost 2 years ago. And so he came with his girlfriend, and she shielded his eyes occasionally. It was great. He was proud.
Yes, right there. I'll repeat the question.
Curious what anyone thinks about this question. Do you think that the story is realistic? Do you think that it's representative of college students' experiences in, let's go ahead and say, Brooklyn?
Well, sounds like you have an
But
opinion.
did everybody hear that question? Did everybody hear that, first of all?
Kind of like that's a segue to your...
The question is, how realistic or exaggerated is this story? Does this really represent...
What do you think? I hate that answering a question with a question. I do have an opinion. Before I give you my opinion, I would like to hear your thoughts.
Okay, we'll come back to you. We will. Oh, no. Let's get a
I
survey.
think it's a little bit tame. I had to edit out all the exciting stuff. First Josh had sex with 9 more men, so I feel like it's not very realistic.
I felt like it was realistic to people I knew. I mean, in some ways it could be, but it is a work of fiction. I think that's the point. In some ways, it's a film. You grew up in Brooklyn. Talk about what you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm from Brooklyn, and I remember getting snowed in. I was like 15 or 16 and went to my ex-girlfriend's best friend's dorm in NYU and got snowed in, and I feel like this is probably diet that at NYU, so that was a wild weekend. But yeah, I think everyone has their own experiences, and it'd be kind of ludicrous to expect everyone to have the same exact experience. But this isn't, a matter of, well, do you think it's real or do you not think it's real? It's showing someone's experience, and so that's like anything. And I used this example recently when talking to a reporter who had an opinion on the area, and I said, I'm dark. I'm a mixed race Puerto Rican kid, but my sister's very fair skinned. My sister's fluent in Spanish, and I'm not. But when people see her, they expect her to just be a white girl, and they see me and and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. But with that said, we have 2 very different experiences because, she walked into a store and people want to go and help her, and she's a beautiful girl, and I walk in and they're like, make sure he doesn't steal anything. And so it would be like, to say that her experience is wrong about growing up like that mix would be one thing. It would be unfair to say that's, when she describes childhood, that she's wrong. Or when I describe how I had to grow up, it's wrong. It's like very different experiences. So I feel like, not to shoot it down, but I feel like it's not the best way to ask the question, because it's depicting an experience. It's not whether or not one person's like, oh, I don't know if that's real. It's like, well, no, we're showing you an experience.
Well, I should have been a spattering of like heroin and psychedelics to really round it out.
Yeah.
Ralph, do you have an opinion?
I mean, as far as realistic life, it's life as we know it. You know what I mean? People have, like Scene said, people go through different experiences, and this is just one of the most craziest, most beautiful experiences that one can go through. You know what I mean? You'll have that friend. It's just life. This is it.
And it probably also helps that they're drinking with us, like everyone getting fucked up on the street and everyone's like...
You compared it to, what's the irreversible, the French Gaspar Noé's film, and it was a lovely compliment. She basically complimenting that she was along with the story. It felt like it was almost like we were experiencing it very much. Sir, right here, sir, yes.
My question's about process. It's more for Morgan, but anyone can chime in. What was the most, challenging scene that you sort of had to sort of prepare for, and what was your approach to it?
the question is what's, for Morgan, but anyone else also can share their most challenging scene and what was your process for working through that?
I've gotten asked this a few times, and surprisingly, it isn't the rape. I do think the most challenging things were like scenes where I'm doing coke alone in my room, or scenes where I'm alone, fucked up. Perhaps because like there wasn't a scene partner, even in the more graphic scenes or something. There was someone to work with, and someone would like be like, "This is weird. What are we doing?" But in those scenes, I'm kind of just like playing with my own brain and manipulating it. And so in terms of that, actually, well, this is the lowest budget of a film I've worked on and the longest rehearsal period. Elizabeth and I spent a lot of time together in the months leading up to shooting, working on the script, on particular scenes, on the character, and then spending time in the neighborhood, spending time in like weird clubs in the city. But I really like, as an actor, like timelines. I find that so helpful, and I like to. I study math. I'm like a weird dork, but I like to like think of the arcs and the acts, and in particular the highs and the lows, and not just in reference to drugs, but yeah, the more extreme moments. And so those where she's alone, especially, are kind of those really heightened moments, and to know like which scenes were more played, not played up, but extreme, really, or intense than others. As I made kind of a whole timeline, and perhaps it has to do with, yeah, you feel like you're kind of with the character, because it is kind of Leah's line throughout the film. I found it really helpful to know all of those different points, because then when you shoot out of order, one day you do this, and then the next scene is like totally different, and we discuss each of the different highs and which felt higher, and really not just drugs, but like her feeling in her chest. Yeah, I like process. I like acting.
That's why I like her. She's so serious. I like it.
Very, very.
My mic serious.
Okay, all the way in the back there, sir, in there, and we'll go to you. Yeah.
I just have to say that I saw a movie here 2 weeks ago, and I saw this trailer come up for this movie, and I sat in the chair crying and shaking because I had never seen something so powerful so quickly. And I obviously love the movie, and I know that making it, you were bearing your soul. And my question is, was that ever scary to you as the director, and also to Morgan? I know it had to come from a personal place.
Terrifying. Especially at the beginning when I first wrote it. I'm like, I could never make this, especially it's like inspired by real events. Like, what will my family think, let alone everyone else? And then it got like easier and easier the more people I showed, and the more it became fiction as it became a movie, and as time went on. But yeah, the whole experience is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, we did kind of declare it fiction. It's not like a hidden fact that some of this is based off of things in Elizabeth's life. But once it was a script, and once I came on, she said, "This is a story. I'm not trying to make this my autobiography." And we started to really craft around the script and the character. And though it was, I think, very personal to both of us, we really just worked to craft a whole character who was a human. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's scary for both of us. Man, I'm so
Yeah, it was
proud of
scary.
her. We always kept saying that she just had to like jump off a cliff like naked, like arms and legs spread. It's like, are you
I
ready?
don't think we even said naked, just jump off a cliff.
Well, I was probably just thinking
You probably-
naked, like naked, you know. Yeah, but like that was like the overall feeling. Morgan free falling naked.
Or clothed.
Or, yes.
My question's for Elizabeth. First of all, it's really enjoyable to see a young, original, artistic voice on the screen. And my question is, how does the process go, or in this case, from being an idea in your head to make White Girl, maybe a script on paper, into getting the entire production behind it, into becoming what we see today?
The question was, how does it go from a germination to fruition? Like, how do you make that momentum occur?
Sure, I'll try to answer that quickly because it could be like 5 hours, but
No, take 5 hours.
no. Basically, I knew this would be my first film when I had this experience that inspired me a lot. But I was making experimental films and documentaries and everything that was like just very emotional art, and I didn't really know at all like the format of a screenplay. And I realized that, and so after 4 years of thinking about it, I applied to film school kind of on a whim, like stoned one night, got in with like a scholarship, I'm like, guess I'll go. And I hated it, but 2 years later I came out with the screenplay and another one, and then made it the next year. To get it made, I just started showing people, begged, the money fell through several times, and in the weeks before production we had to cut $500,000 off the budget and 30 pages out of the script, and scrape together the money we could to make it in a way that we could. The budget was around $700,000, and it still seems like a lot of money to me, despite that being very low budget for a film. And yeah, still not knowing at any point if it would work out or if people would see it, so it's pretty cool that you're all sitting here right now.
And then it premiered at Sundance, which isn't too bad. Round of applause. Sure. Let's just try to go through some questions kind of quickly because I appreciate it. We'll go you, sir, in the back, and then you up front, and then you. Go ahead, sir, right there.
First, thank you all for coming. I think you all did a really amazing job. I would love to hear about the rehearsal process.
Rehearsal.
I think I came on in May of 2014, and then we shot in October. So we really did have like 5 or 6 months in between. And a few months after I came on, he was cast, and the rest of the kids. Us, I mean, the kids. And it started with just like weird lunches in Midtown. I was doing a play over the summer, so Elizabeth and I would chill and like talk about the scenes. And I would go home with my own questions. She would give me assignments like, send me a striptease. And I would
DVD special features?
Nope.
That wasn't even an assignment, that was just like a personal request.
I gave you those assignments too then.
And I would do work on my at home alone, like literally trying to rehearse and then make good takes for her of like weird dances. We would go out to the neighborhood, hang out on the roof, buy some 40s, walk around. And then as the rest of the cast came on, we did like a table read, and then with Brian and I would sit around a table with Elizabeth and work on the scenes, which you really don't frequently do for a film. And discuss what lines were important and why, and the dynamic between each of us throughout different points of the movie. It was great. You usually don't rehearse hardly anything for films, so it was phenomenal to get to the opportunity to do that.
What she said. No.
This was his first acting role.
Yeah!
Took all the good answers. No, it was awesome. Elizabeth made it a big deal to articulate the fact that she wanted it to be characters that we built. So I had the question in my mind, oh, well, I know it's based on a true story. By the time I had gotten the role, she had sent out a sizzle book, I guess you could call it, like a little kind of PDF, a lookbook of, to try to show you pictures of what was really going on, the people involved in the story. So I was kind of going back and forth with, I hope I'm not really depicting a person, because this script speaks so well, reads so well, that I could just picture the character. And then before I could even ask the question or talk about it, Elizabeth made the point to say, no, build this yourself. This is not about someone that existed 15 years ago. This is, about how you come up with it. And so we spent a lot of time doing that. I of course, being the new guy, I did a lot of things that he probably didn't have to do. So it said in the script, his long curly fro, so I grew my hair out to be like ridiculously long. and then she told me, why does your hair keep getting longer? And I was like, oh, it's in the script. She's like, don't fucking girl, what are you doing?
You took him to get a haircut.
Right, so we were hanging
Barbershop
out.
after.
We were hanging out on a roof, going over like scenes, specific scenes, talking about what.
Like a month before we
Right,
shot more.
right, and what like well, okay, you guys just came up to a roof. Where would you guys be fucking on this roof like right now, your first time? Which I
Discuss position.
From behind against the wall, and she were like, no, not your first time. You won that argument, by the way, because guess what? The director.
yeah, that's embarrassingly that's true, and that's what I said, and I thought it was just like kind of a physical thing. It's not like, oh well, I would bend her over. I was like, oh well, maybe right here from behind, and she was like, what, from the first time? You're a pig. I was like, no, I thought you meant like with what we have on this roof here. She's like, oh, I'm sure, and so for the rest of the day, while they're talking about a million different things, all I could think about was this damn comment I made, and I couldn't live it down.
Still experiencing.
Yeah, still experiencing the shame of my answer. But yeah, that day we were like, oh, what would it really be like? I'm like, well, this kid looks probably how I looked before I started making the preparations I thought I needed to make. So she's like, I was like, I'd cut it right now. And she's, no, you wouldn't. You love it too much. I was like, no, I'll go right now. So we got beers, went to the barbershop and shaved my head after 8 months of growing. But yeah, it was just, that was like the prep was that, I think I lost 23 pounds because I tore a lot. And so I had tour party weight on me. And so it was like, I started skating to and from the music studio with all my equipment on my back, to and from in the summer, dripping sweat, and all these little things to be like, wait, what did I look like when I was standing on the corner growing up? Because I did. And so, yeah, all those little things. And again, Elizabeth just cheering you on the whole way. Not at all, completely cheering on every decision you were making and supporting it the whole way, which is rare and built the kind of trust that I'm not used to. As someone growing up from Brooklyn, like, you don't trust someone, especially a few months after you meet them. So she, I think a big part of that whole experience in the process was realizing that this person that you're doing this for is your biggest fan as far as wanting you to do well. You know what I mean? And that was something very new for me. It's probably the first time it's ever happened. I'm used to trying to call all the shots on anything I work on, and I didn't have a say in any of that. So that was part of the process, I think, for me personally, was just learning how to trust someone else and their vision. And I'm extremely grateful that I did, because she fucking killed it. I don't have to clap for that. You're all still thinking about me saying doggy style on the roof.
I also want to mention before I can't remember who I chose, but okay, sir, thank you. But I do want to squeeze in before we get cut off at some point, that everybody, the regular spiel, go home and tell everybody to come see this. I don't know how long it's planned to be at Nitehawk or Angelica in Manhattan, but tweet. What's the tweet again? It's the White Girl film. What's it called? Movie. Excuse me. At White Girl Movie. Right. It's on Facebook. There's lots of ways to interact with the film, and so just spread the word about White Girl if you enjoyed it. Yes, sir.
That's actually a good question. I really enjoyed the film. Congratulations. The first, when I was watching the film, kind of, was wondering about the comment you were making on the precarious space that the white female body occupies, right? Is that at once a very kind of privileged, occupies a very privileged space. So you see she's in college and he's in jail at the end, or she's able to help him out with resources and I got it. And at the same time, obviously, it occupies this abject space where she's being violated and abused and objectified. And I just wanted you to elaborate on the kind of comment that at least my reading on it, that I feel you were trying to make. And the second thing is, what is it, singing? Yes, sir. Congratulations on performing. And I just wanted to, for you, I imagine, and you just talked about in terms of, the stereotypes of you being a brown young man growing up in Brooklyn, and how folks view you and your body, and then you're playing a drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? And I wonder to what extent the folks that are viewing this think that you're acting, you know what I mean? And, in terms of all the stereotyping that you were attending to before. So I'm wondering how you grapple with that. To what extent you're holding that and thinking about that and whether we're in spaces like this or just in general. So that for you, you know what I'm saying? That must be tricky for you, you know, to know that you've been stereotyped and that to some degree, you know, folks are thinking that's what you want to do, you know, or potentially. So anyway, those are my 2 questions.
Okay, that's good. That's loaded. I mean, in a sense, you're bringing up racial dynamics, stereotypes that exist out in the world, and how, as actors, and maybe Elizabeth, you too, as the creator of these characters, you navigate that, because, you know, especially right now, this country's is a major part of the dialogue of the country right now. You're performing, you're playing a drug dealer, and that fits into a certain stereotype of brown people, and then you're playing a white girl who can kind of run around and do whatever she wants. There's a certain amount of privilege being a white girl, an attractive white girl, like a young white girl. I don't know. So, brought up a lot of stuff.
Again, first I want to thank you. These conversations are the reason that I wanted to tell this film, and that it's uncomfortable and kind of gross, and I'm quite critical of the protagonist, but also like examining a lot of things I've experienced. And I thought these were the kind of conversations that we'd have, like, say, at Sundance. And instead, the majority of people want to talk about sexuality or like blowjobs, and I'm like, really? Whereas, like, I think it's like, for me, a way to start talking about things that are hard for me to talk about, and it's good that it's hard for me to talk about. It's supposed to be hard. And I think why I was attracted to this story when I was experiencing something like this in real life is because while it was a love story, it also brought in the racial dynamics, the gender dynamics, the sexuality, and it seemed this like intersecting moment in my life where like my eyes were open, and I think I really actually lost a lot of hope and realized that things were going to be much more complicated than my naive, Midwestern, optimistic former self thought they were. You know, she says, I can figure anything out. She doesn't figure out jack shit, she makes it all worse. And so I don't have any answers, but I have a lot of questions, and I want to talk about it. And I mostly just like thank you for asking these questions. And to me, while he is a drug dealer and he's Puerto Rican, it's her to me that's doing, you know, much more crime, you know, selling much more drugs, encouraging to take much bigger risks for much more valid reasons. So I actually think of her as the bad guy in the film, even though I love her. So it's all very complicated.
Yeah, I think that was the best question I've been asked since we started this movie. It was difficult. The very first time I read it, first of all, I loved it. And to be quite honest with everybody, I remember sitting there, and it kind of freaked my friends out because they used to seeing like a confident version of me. And I was like, no, you don't get it. I relate more to this than anyone who's going to come up for this part. And if I don't get it, I will never live it down. I don't care if I sell 2 million records. I'm already having beautiful success with music. I will never live this down if I don't get it. And people were like, you'll be fine. I was like, go fuck yourself. But I was a stat. I mean, it's the first time I've like spoken about like outside of music and saying it in a bar or something, but like I sold drugs growing up. And so I left that life like 10 years before I got the script. And so I went all the way to try to get as far away from that as possible. You know what I mean? And I think in reading the script, I walked away thinking, like I said this yesterday, and it's funny, but it's really true. I started getting nervous at some of the details in it. There were some specifics that like I've said those lines in real life before, and not like I remember saying it. My friends remember those stories. So I remember letting a friend, I said this last night, but I remember showing my friend and letting him see a few lines, and he was like, oh shit, they know you. And I was like, no. He's like, no, they know you. I was like, no, they have no idea, they never even met me. They have no idea anything. It just happens to really be hitting right on the nose. And he was like, well, that's crazy, man. And so, you know, when I put the script down, I thought it was important to be told, and I knew it was fitting a stereotype, but I thought to myself, he's the only decent person in this whole fucking script. He's the only decent person in this script. And I've been that way. I've been 40 deep in a park where everyone around me is a terrible criminal, and I love them all. Hate some of them, but love them all in a way because I understand where they're coming from. And be like, damn, if anyone's looking at me from the outside right now, I'm just one of them. Anyone walking by right now, cops would come and talk to us like pieces of shit. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here in this park because I feel more welcome here than at home. And so when I read this character, it was just like, oh man, I get a chance to let people see on the screen that when you meet him, you're like, look at this dickhead, fake drug dealer. You know what I mean? And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, this poor kid. And it's because he's the only one that has decent intentions. He's the only one that, like, you know, it was an embarrassing moment for me. I think the hardest thing for me, although it wasn't part of the question, the hardest thing for me to film was the proposal in the whole movie. Because it's knowing how stupid he is. And being like, you dumb fuck. Like, you're getting on your knee for this girl, she's out, she doesn't give a fuck about you. And so that was like just having to humble up and be like, no, you're the idiot right now, make it viable, make it real. Because this is what he's thinking and going through. That was like the hardest moment. And so I think, yeah, grappling with that was really, really tough, and it still is. But at the same time, I'm hoping that everyone sees what I saw when I read it before it even got to be painted onto a big screen, which is that this is the only kid with real intentions, and you would judge him because he's selling blow, and that would be unfair. But that's life, right?
She doesn't even do it. I disagree. She did not give a fuck about her emotional. Get your
Yeah,
mouth.
wait a minute. She, I mean, if this were real, right? Hypothetically. We only have a few seconds left, so I really want to quickly. Did anybody else want to respond to his question at the moment? 'Cause okay, well, I had pointed to one other person before, right? After him, I said.
yeah, I had a dumb blowjob question.
Oh,
that has to be a guy.
Question about a blowjob is dumb.
Well, I want to know about the technical challenges of the coke dick scene.
It's prosthetic, it's rubber.
Coke dicks.
Real thrilling.
I offered to stunt double for that scene, they told me to go home.
There was a dig double? Is that what we're saying?
Dig double, that's why it was so brown, it's still like Photoshop.
Are we out of time? One more question? We have one more question?
We're just getting started.
Okay, right there, you're the last. And then the guys might be in the bar area afterwards. You can maybe chat a little bit informally. But yeah, one quick question.
Yeah, I was just interested, like, in the dynamic of the stakes each character had in the movie. So, like, one character was hustling for his life, Blue, and then someone, like, the girl kind of had a flirtation with danger. It was real, but it was an attraction to, like, this whole thing. But she was still in college, you know, after the summer, and then you could have some kind of safety. And how it was like for you guys writing that, and also seeing how the characters would, like, move on after that, you know, fictional or otherwise.
So I guess the question is, I guess just was that part of the? First of all, was that part of the story? Where's the character going into it with just this idea that it's just for fun to live dangerously for the summer? You know, is that?
No, I don't think
and
so.
then kind of go back.
Even
Is that
if,
part of
even
her
if that may
nature?
come off, I don't think like a character, at least you experiencing the character and me writing the character, we both tried never to be like, but really what was, you have to like live in the moment. Like, of course she believes everything she's doing, she believes in it, even if, you know, now sitting in class she can reflect back and change her mind. I think you have to fully invest the character, like, believes in everything that they're doing. And we stopped talking about like the bigger implication of things. You just had to live, you just had to be Leah.
Yeah, I mean, from the script it was apparent that it was about privilege and about being a young white female and what that offered, and also the disadvantages of being a, you know. But as we approached it more and more, we kind of had to focus on her line and her cup, or I certainly did. I'm sure Elizabeth still had more in intentions in mind, but I really did focus on her optimism and cup half full, and her believing like she was a young, strong woman, even though that doesn't feel like what we see.
I'll just add, I took something a little different out of your question, which is interesting because I was just talking to someone about this the other day, someone I'm very close to. And it's like, I grew up around a lot of like popular graffiti writers from New York, by chance. And a lot of them sold drugs too, and a lot of them did a lot of drugs. And they were rich kids, some of them. They were rich kids. And I was like, they would drop me off at 3 in the morning, like in their daddy's Lexus that he bought them. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you drive me back to Batchelder Street, and like, and I'm so confused at the same time. I get it, you're not really thrilled at home, but like, they take care of you. Like, we're in a fancy car, and like, I don't, like, I'm gonna go to school tomorrow on my mother's Hyundai, and it sounds like a lawnmower. and I don't get it. So it's not really an answer, but it's like it's a real thing that exists. So to your point, like it's a real thing that exists. I'm not saying necessarily in this story, because Leah's not, and at no point do you ever made feel like she's a rich kid at all. But the privileges in the skin color and and just being a white woman. But that is a real thing. That's a real complex, and I still don't have the answer for it. But it's like, yeah, I remember kids getting locked up in and out, doing 2 years and like on the barge, and I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Your family's loaded. Like, why are you selling drugs? Like, you got busted selling drugs? That's less than your allowance. You know what I mean? But I guess we'll see that, and I'm sure that's never going to go away. Someone's always going to want to live that exciting life,
Or what they think is an exciting life.
Right,
Which is your
right.
point. Which is
Right.
Right. Thank you. Elizabeth, the director, round of applause again. I think that's the first feature film from you. And more than good fun to see. Ralph, thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming.